they're plainly aimed at voters. If they were aimed at people smugglers, they'd be published in Indonesian newspapers, in Bahasa and various other languages. But no, they're plainly aimed at voters here in Australia. It's an outrageous abuse of the taxpayer. It frankly is an absolutely scandalous waste of public money. The Labor Party should be billed for these ads. The Labor Party should reimburse the Commonwealth for these ads. And let's never forget that before the 2007 election, Mr Rudd said that taxpayer-funded advertising was a cancer on our democracy, no less. And he said that if he was to become Prime Minister, he wouldn't do any taxpayer-funded ads within 6 months of an election, other than with the express approval of the Leader of the Opposition. Well, plainly, these ads are political, they're partisan, and they shouldn't be happening.
Do I take it then that you have not approved these ads?
No, well, I wasn't asked to approve them, and I wouldn't have approved them.
Mr Abbott, are you worried that these sort of ads might strike a chord with the Australian public?
Look, Mr Rudd is trying to tell you that having started the problem, he's now fixed the problem. I think the public are smart enough to see through this bloke. He's all talk, he's no action, he's all announcement, he's no delivery. If he was fair dinkum, he would have already sent numerous people to Manus Island, but not a single one of the people who's arrived since Friday night has yet been taken to Manus Island. There's several hundred who have, and we know what Mr Rudd's like. Maybe in a few weeks' time, a handful might get taken to Manus Island, but that's not enough. If this is going to have a deterrence effect, basically, within a very short period of arriving on Christmas Island or in Australia, these people are going to have to land up in Manus and never come back if Mr Rudd's announcement is to work as he says.
Tell me, Mr Abbott, have you decided or have you evolved the Coalition's policy towards asylum seekers in any way?
Well, our policy has been crystal clear for the last 3 years. In fact, for the last 3 years on all things, we've had the same strong team and the same clear plans, while Labor has been all over the place. Our policy is, first, temporary protection visas. Second, offshore processing at places like Nauru and Manus Island. Third, the willingness to turn boats around where it's safe to do so. All that's happened is that lately is that after almost 50,000 illegal arrivals, 700 odd boats, perhaps 1,000 deaths at sea and $10 billion of border protection budget blowouts, Mr Rudd is finally, in this respect only, back where the Howard government was in about 2002.
Indeed. Now, on another issue, Mr Rudd has made much of the fact that he has asked you to debate him a number of times, and thus far you've declined the opportunity to do so. Will you debate Mr Rudd in a public forum?
Well, what I've said is that I'm only too happy to debate Mr Rudd, but Mr Rudd has to decide whether he's governing or campaigning. If he's governing, bring back the Parliament and we'll have parliamentary debates every day. If he's campaigning, name the date and we'll have the election debates that take place during the campaign. So I'm looking forward to debating Mr Rudd, but what I'm not going to do is participate in a stunt. And this is someone who wants to turn the government of our country into a version of Celebrity Big Brother, and I'm getting on with the important job of making real change, proposing real change, which will make a real difference to our country. So we'll have a stronger economy so that everyone can get ahead. We'll scrap the carbon tax, we'll pay back Labor's debt, we'll build the infrastructure of the future, and we'll stop the boats. And I'm afraid the only way to stop the boats is to change the government.
Just going back to the issue of the debate, though, what you're saying is that once an election is called, once the date has been settled, given that the September 14 date has now been scrapped, then you will agree to debate Mr Rudd?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I'm looking forward to debating him, and I suspect he'll be the one who's starting to get hitchy about debates then.
And Tommy, would you care to share with us your views on what the election date might be?
Tom, look, Mr Rudd, I think, would be well advised to have it sooner rather than later, because the longer he goes on, the more obvious it will be that all of the various things that that he's put in place are basically election fixes held together with blue tack and sticky tape. The only actual change we've seen since Mr Rudd became Prime Minister has been the loss of hundreds of jobs in the motor vehicle leasing business because of his ill-thought-through policy on the run to change the fringe benefits tax arrangements for company cars and slug so many people with company cars an extra $1,500 a year.
Finally, Mr Abbott, the birth this morning of the royal baby to the Duchess of Cambridge and, of course, Prince William. Good news for Australians?
Absolutely, Tom. It's a very happy day for Australia, for the Commonwealth, for the wider world. Congratulations to Prince William and to Kate, to Prince Charles and Camilla, to the Queen and Prince Philip. I suspect they are the world's happiest great-grandparents today.
And is this also the end of the Australian Republican movement?
Look, I suspect that the Australian Republican movement will limp on. We've had a Republican movement of sorts in this country since the 1850s, but I think that we've had all sorts of new leases of life for the monarchy in this country. The monarchy in this country is rather different from the monarchy in Britain because while we certainly have a claim on the royal family and that they do a marvellous job, we've got the Governor-General, who's always a distinguished Australian, representing Australia and acting as our head of state.
Mr Abbott, we better leave it there. Thank you so much for your time.
Good on you, Tom. Lovely to talk to you.